The chamber of the Galactic Senate glittered with cold magnificence. Vast tiers of seats rose in concentric rings around a central podium, where the voices of civilizations echoed like thunder. Holographic banners of ancient empires shimmered overhead, each symbol of dominance older than humanity's written history. To stand here was to confront the weight of millennia. At the podium stood Earth's ambassador, a middle-aged man with a diplomat's practiced calm. His robes were modest compared to the silken and scaled attire of the elder species, yet he raised his chin with quiet dignity. His words, when they came, carried clearly across the expanse. "We do not come to kneel. We come to stand as equals." The chamber erupted in laughter. It was not the laughter of amusement but of contempt, deep and derisive. Alien mouths gnashed, clicked, and shrieked in chorus. Amphibian senators slapped their webbed hands together mockingly, while avian delegates fluffed feathers in gestures of ridicule. From the highest throne, Chancellor Vareth of the Zortal Dominion leaned forward. His elongated frame was armored in ceremonial plates, scales gleaming under chamber lights. When he spoke, his voice slid like a blade through the air. "Equals? You fragile mammals crawl from your mud ball barely a century ago, and now you presume to stand beside the architects of the stars? Your arrogance insults this assembly." The laughter swelled again. At the rear of the delegation, Admiral Elias Vance did not move. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in the dark uniform of Earth's fledgling fleet, he stood as though carved from stone. His gray eyes tracked each speaker with the patience of a predator. He had expected mockery, but the naked disdain stoked a slow fire in his chest. The ambassador steadied himself. "Humanity seeks recognition, not conquest. We wish to trade, to share knowledge, and to contribute." "You contribute nothing," interrupted a senator from the Threx Combine, its mandibles clacking. "A primitive people with a fleet of scrap. Your species has no art worth remembering, no technology worth stealing, no armies worth fearing." Others joined in, their voices a storm of disdain. "Too young. Too weak. Too reckless." The phrases echoed around the chamber like hammers striking. Vance's jaw tightened. He said nothing, but the muscles in his neck coiled like wire. Chancellor Vareth raised one clawed hand and the noise stilled. His smile was cold, predatory. "Let us speak plainly. Humanity has not earned a place here. Recognition is reserved for civilizations that have endured the centuries, not for transient species that still measure history in mere millennia." The ambassador tried once more. "We ask only that our sovereignty be respected. Earth seeks no war." Vareth's gaze sharpened. "War? You misunderstand. There will be no war. There will be correction." He paused, savoring the silence. "The Senate will dispatch a fleet to your system, not to destroy you, but to remind you of order. You will surrender your weapons, dismantle your so-called navy, and submit to oversight. This is mercy." A hiss of agreement spread through the chamber. The ambassador's face paled. "That is subjugation, not recognition. And yet it is what you will accept," Vareth said, final as stone. The human delegation stiffened. Behind them, alien representatives jeered openly, some chanting for sanctions, others calling for immediate annexation. The chamber had turned into a theater of humiliation, and humanity its unwilling spectacle. For the first time, Admiral Vance spoke. His voice was deep, deliberate, cutting through the noise. "Chancellor," he said, "if your fleet comes to Sol, you will find it less welcoming than you imagine." The chamber quieted. Hundreds of alien eyes fixed on him. His words were not shouted, but they carried weight. Vareth's lips peeled back in amusement. "The soldier speaks. Tell me, human, do you threaten the Senate?" "I state a fact," Vance replied evenly. "Do not mistake our youth for weakness." Gasps rippled through the assembly. Few dared speak to the Chancellor so directly. Vareth laughed, the sound a low growl. "Bold words, from a species with barely one fleet to its name. I look forward to teaching you humility." The session ended with a vote. Recognition was denied unanimously. Instead, the punitive expedition was approved without hesitation. The decree was simple: humanity would be forced into compliance by overwhelming force. The human delegation filed out, heads high despite the derision hurled after them. Reporters and messengers swarmed the chamber, eager to broadcast the humiliation across the galaxy. In the transport bay, the ambassador slumped into a seat, rubbing his temples. "They've already decided our fate," he murmured. "We will be crushed before the galaxy as an example." Vance remained standing, his hands clasped behind his back, his gaze fixed on the void beyond the viewport. "Examples cut both ways," he said quietly. The ambassador looked up. "You believe we can resist them?" Vance's lips tightened into the faintest shadow of a smile. "They think humanity has nothing. They think we are defenseless. Let them believe it. It makes what comes next inevitable." The ship lifted away from Oraxis Prime, the Senate's radiant spires receding into darkness. Behind them lay scorn and humiliation. Ahead lay Sol, Earth, the cradle of humanity, and something else. Something the galaxy had not yet seen. In the private chamber of his flagship, Chancellor Varith convened with his generals. Holograms of ships filled the air, cruisers, dreadnoughts, carriers, all pledged by allied species for the coming demonstration. "When the humans are ashes," he said, voice smooth with certainty, "no other upstart will dare rise. Their name will be a warning." He leaned back, satisfied. Light years away, Admiral Elias Vance whispered a single word to himself, not a vow but a promise. Retribution. The Sol system waited in tense silence. News of the Senate's decision had reached Earth before the human delegation returned. Every screen, every broadcast, carried the same grim message: a fleet of thousands was on its way. The greatest powers of the galaxy had united not to destroy a rival, but to humiliate an upstart. At Lunar Base, Admiral Elias Vance walked through steel corridors alive with hurried footsteps and the low hum of engines. He passed engineers, pilots, and technicians, all driven by the same nervous urgency. Faces tightened at the sight of him, not in fear but in expectation. He was the one chosen to command the only card humanity had left to play. Docked in the Kuiper Belt, hidden from prying eyes until now, waited the culmination of Earth's desperation, the HSS Retribution. The journey out took hours. As the shuttle broke into the shipyard, the vessel filled the viewport. Even Vance, who had been briefed on every specification, paused at the sight. It stretched for kilometers, a spear of steel and composite alloys, armored in overlapping plates that shimmered dark against the sun's reflection. Rows of rail cannons lined its flanks, missile silos bristled like thorns, and deep within its hull pulsed the Singularity Core, an engine that bent physics to its will. It was not elegance, it was raw intent forged into form. The pilot whistled low. One ship against an armada. Seems madness. Vance did not look away from the looming giant. Madness is letting them think they can erase us. They docked. Inside, the Retribution smelled of new metal, ozone, and human sweat. The crew moved with the restless discipline of those who knew they might soon be legends or corpses. Commander Hale, his executive officer, greeted him at the airlock. "Sir, we're at 98% readiness. Weapons checks complete, Singularity drive stabilized. Engineering still running simulations on core efficiency." "Simulations mean nothing once the first shot is fired," Vance said. "We'll know soon enough." The command deck was a cathedral of steel and light. Screens glowed with tactical data, the hum of power thrummed beneath their feet. Officers snapped to attention as Vance stepped onto the dais. He studied them for a long moment before speaking. "You've heard the Senate's decree. They're not coming to parley. They're coming to break us. To the galaxy, we are a lesson in arrogance. But here, on this deck, we will be the counter-lesson. They believe one fleet will erase humanity. We will show them what one ship can do." No one cheered. The silence was sharper than applause, grim, steady, resolute. They understood what was at stake. Vance turned to Hale. "Status of fleet movements? Alien Armada has entered relay space. Estimates place them at Sol's Edge within 40 hours. Mixed composition, Dominion dreadnoughts, Threx carriers, Kalari swarm craft. Thousands of hulls. Good, Vance said. Let them come in full strength. Better for the galaxy to witness their failure all at once. Hale hesitated. Sir, even with this ship, those numbers. We will not fight their numbers, Vance interrupted. We will fight their arrogance. They will come expecting surrender, not resistance. That buys us moments. Moments are all we need. Later, in the officers' wardroom, the tension broke into whispered fears. Lieutenant Cade, young and hot-blooded, spoke louder than intended. They think we're cattle. If this ship fails, they'll make us slaves. Engineer Soraya Patel shot him a sharp look. Then it doesn't fail. Cade glanced at Vance, who had entered quietly. Sir, you really believe we can take them? One against thousands? Vance fixed him with a calm stare. Do you know why they laugh at us? Cade frowned. Because they think we're weak. No, Vance said. Because they've forgotten what desperation breeds. They've lived with power so long they think it eternal. We don't have that luxury. We adapt or we die. That is why we win. The room fell silent. Cade nodded once, tension easing in his shoulders. Hours bled into preparations. Crews ran endless diagnostics, fed targeting systems, calibrated weapons. In engineering, the Singularity drive hummed with unstable energy, containment fields straining but holding. Soraya stayed by it day and night, refusing to leave its side. If it tears itself apart, it'll do it through me first, she muttered. Finally, the alarm sounded. Hale's voice rang across the ship. Senate fleet detected at system edge. Estimated strength, 3,000 vessels and rising. On the command deck, Vance straightened. Open channel. All frequencies. A flicker, then the face of a Dominion admiral filled the screen, scales shining, eyes full of contempt. Behind him stretched the endless formation of ships. Humans of soul, the alien intoned. You defied the Senate. You have been judged. You will disarm and surrender or your world will burn. Vance stepped forward into the feed, voice steady. Your fleet enters Sol at its own peril. Leave now, and no blood need be spilled. The alien's laughter was deep and cruel. Your species clings to a single system, and you dare lecture the galaxy? We will scour your arrogance from the stars. Then test your resolve against ours, Vance said. He cut the channel. A hush fell over the deck. Outside, the black void glittered with hostile stars, each enemy ship a promise of fire. The Retribution moved into position, prow aimed at the approaching tide. Its weapons powered, energy rising in the core like a storm held barely in check? On Earth below, billions watched through trembling broadcasts, knowing their fate rested in one ship. Families clutched children, soldiers gripped rifles they would never fire, leaders prayed to gods who had never answered before. The countdown began. 10,000 alien engines flared as the fleet advanced into Sol. Their formation was perfect, their confidence absolute. Against them drifted a single vessel of humanity, steel forged not for elegance but survival. On the bridge, Vance's voice cut through the mounting roar of systems. Remember this moment. History turns now, and it turns with us. The Retribution surged forward, a solitary giant rushing headlong into the heart of the greatest armada the galaxy had ever assembled. And with that, the first shot was seconds away. The void erupted with fire. Thousands of alien ships entered Sol in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like a wall of steel across the black. They came confident, certain, a tidal wave meant to wash away a single stubborn species. Against them, the HSS Retribution advanced alone, a solitary blade held against the storm. On the bridge, Admiral Elias Vance stood with his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the tactical display. Red icons swarmed across the screen, blotting out Earth's orbit. His voice cut through the tense silence. Target their vanguard. Fire when ready. The ship shuddered as the spinal rail cannon unleashed its first strike. A streak of light tore through space, slamming into a Dominion battleship. The vessel folded inward, ripped apart as its reactor went critical. In the same heartbeat, the Retribution's singularity projector activated. A shimmering sphere of gravity bloomed ahead of the enemy formation, dragging ships into its hungry maw. Cruisers crumpled, frigates shattered, carriers buckled as their hulls twisted like paper. Gasps rippled through the crew. Lieutenant Cade whispered, "Dear God!" Vance's tone remained steady. "Adjust trajectory. Fire again." The enemy fleet reeled. What had begun as a confident advance dissolved into chaos. Alien admirals barked orders, but their formations broke as ships veered to escape the sudden void tearing through their ranks. On an open channel, a Threx commander shrieked, mandibles clacking in disbelief. "Impossible! That ship cannot!" His transmission cut off as another rail slug cleaved his carrier in two. The alien armada answered with fury. Beams of plasma and missiles streaked toward the Retribution. Shields flared, decks trembled under the impact, but the Dreadnought held. Damage reports scrolled across the screens, but systems stayed green. Humanity's single weapon endured the storm. Commander Hale barked updates. "Minor breaches on Deck 12, shields at 74%. Holding steady?" "Good," Vance replied. "Bring us closer. Focus on their command ships." The Retribution dove into the heart of the swarm. It was not a defensive crawl but a predator's charge. Rail cannons tore through heavy cruisers. Missile salvos blanketed the void with detonations, ripping destroyers to ash. Another singularity pulse erupted, swallowing a cluster of frigates whole. The black sphere winked out, leaving only drifting wreckage. Panic spread across the enemy fleet. Thousands of voices screamed across open comms, disbelief bleeding into fear. "One ship, how can it stand? Fall back, regroup! Their weapons are forbidden, this should not exist!" In the Senate chamber light years away, delegates watched the live broadcast in stunned silence. What had been intended as a spectacle of dominance had turned into a massacre. Chancellor Vaerith gripped the edge of his throne, his composure cracking. On the bridge of the Retribution, Soraya Patel called from engineering. "Core at 90%. She's holding, Admiral, but the strain is climbing." "Then we finish this quickly," Vance said. "Target their flagship." The enemy command vessel, 3 kilometers of alien dreadnought, bristled with weapons and escorted by an honor guard of destroyers. It had been designed to symbolize the Senate's power. Now it became humanity's target. The Retribution cut through its escorts with surgical precision. A rail slug shattered one destroyer, a missile spread tore through 2 more. Vance's eyes narrowed on the flagship's glowing silhouette. "Charge the main cannon!" Energy surged down the ship's spine. The Singularity Core roared, containment field straining, every deck thrumming with power. Officers held their breath. "Fire!" The shot streaked across the void, brighter than any star. It slammed into the flagship, boring straight through its armor. For a moment the massive vessel seemed to hold, then it split apart, a fireball consuming its length. The command ship, pride of the Senate fleet, was gone in an instant. Silence followed. Across the enemy armada, transmissions faltered. Ships broke formation. Some fled outright, drives flaring as they scattered into the black. The tide had shattered. Vance exhaled once, quiet but final. "All ships retreating. We hold position." The crew stared at the screens in disbelief. Against thousands, against the power of the galaxy, they had not only survived, they had annihilated. Lieutenant Cade broke the silence. "Sir, we won?" Vance's gaze remained fixed on the wreckage drifting across Sol. "No," he said softly. "We've been acknowledged." Across Earth, billions watched in awe as the alien fleet broke and fled. Cheers erupted in cities and outposts, fear melting into fierce pride. Humanity, dismissed as fragile, had forced the galaxy to see them differently. Moments later, a desperate channel opened. The alien admiral who had first broadcast threats now appeared again. His once proud voice cracked. "Human commander, enough. We withdraw. The Senate will reconsider your petition." Vance stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "We asked for respect. You gave us scorn. We asked for peace. You gave us war. Remember this day, the day one human ship silenced your armada. If you come again, there will be no reconsideration. Only ruin. He cut the transmission. The bridge remained still, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Outside, the debris of 1,000 alien ships glinted in the starlight, a monument to defiance. Far away, in the grand chamber of the Senate, Chancellor Vareth sat in silence as the feed ended. Around him, once mocking senators shifted uneasily, their laughter gone. The Chancellor's claws tightened, but even he could not deny the truth. Humanity was no longer a species to be dismissed. On the Retribution, Vance looked out over the void. For the first time, Earth's skies were free not because of mercy, but because of strength. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Set course back to Earth, he ordered. The great ship turned slowly, leaving behind fields of wreckage. Behind it, silence reigned. Before it, a future remade. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, not as supplicants, but as equals, carved into history by steel and fire.